Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Inkylesconvo. Again, it feels great to be back. And as somebody mentioned, like, you should really change your intro. And I was like, yeah, because everybody kind of knows what they're listening to, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, somebody as I say to people, as soon as and I didn't tell them I was going to say this, but a man close to my heart when it comes to sales. I like sales to me, because my very first job was working for Pennycook selling windows, and that's probably, I'm not going to lie, that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, was be involved in sales. It's crazy. But it's Craig Nelson. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. As I said, I'm a bit tired after all the miles I've done today, but I'm feeling good.
Good, yeah. Now, just before we get into like your like background and like where eventually how you got to where you are, what was the notion to go for sales? Like or was it just kind of job you fell into, or what was the?
It was probably a bit by accident, I think. When I was a boy at school, all I wanted to be was a soldier. Right. And that was, I went on and fulfilled that. I became a soldier. As soon as I left school, I joined the army. Done my thing there, went and seen a bit of the world and stuff. And then I came out and I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. So I kind of accidentally fell into the construction industry. And I kind of, not quite a frontline sales role, but there was an element of sales involved in it. And that was the part of the job I really enjoyed. So when I left there, I thought, I went and I started my own business. And again, the element of that I really enjoyed was the sales aspect of it. So, the business I had was in the kind of out to the motor industry. And from that, I mean, as I say, that the sales element of it was what I really enjoyed. So when I decided to wrap it up, I thought, it needs to be a sales role that I find myself in, and thankfully that's where I found myself. So yeah.
Yeah, you kind of went round that. It's weird. It's funny you say that, because like with the army and sales and stuff, it's, I had Doogie Brimson on, as people will know, and he turned in and says that he hires like 25% veterans, and he said, you know why? And I was like, I don't know, I'm not obviously to help them, but he was like, no, there's an actual reason behind it. And he said, because people in the army work harder than normal people because they're disciplined. So I guess does it take I take it it gets a lot of discipline to be able to like be in sales and be in things like that. I'm correct in saying.
I mean, obviously I can't speak for other people, but I've got quite a regimented schedule on a daily basis. I've got specific times of the day that I set out. Literally, my laptop gets switched off, all my distractions are put away, and it's prospecting. Is it because in order to keep my pipeline full, I need to prospect. So for me, prospecting is a really difficult thing to do. A lot of salespeople might back away from it, and it's one of the hardest parts of the job, in my opinion. So in order for me to do that, successfully, it takes a lot of discipline. Because instead of, I can't just sit and look at my phone, be afraid to phone people. I literally need to just pick it up and go for it. I mean, that can take a lot. It really can take a lot, especially when you're just cold calling people. People don't like cold calling. So It takes a lot of discipline just to be able to pick up that phone, set that time aside, and do it. So it's, discipline for me anyway. Discipline's definitely something that I feel is required in order to do the sales role successfully.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, and I don't know about yourself, but we were commission only, so for that you kind of have to realize that there's no such thing as, well, there's obviously distractions, but you kind of have to like knock them out of your head a little bit, because it doesn't, it's hard. It's like, say, that's why I'm saying hats off to you for being in sales. But when you were doing your degree in accounting and business management, was that for going into the sales role, or was that for something else?
Well, I'm still doing that. I've actually not completed that yet. I've not completed that degree yet. But yes and no is the answer to that. having my own business, I mean, it kind of felt a bit weird because when I decided I was going to wrap that up and move into a full-time job, I mean, on paper, I think the experience I had should have been able to get me into a role. Mm-hmm. But you find that, I mean, I can't remember the last time I had applied for a job apart from the one I'm in. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know how I suppose interviews went. I just assumed that I had this nice CV and that it would get me, you know, a decent role to match my experience. But what you find is actually there's somebody with a degree out there ahead of you because he's got a degree. Mm-hmm. And it was just a case of, right, well, I need a degree then. I'm going to need to get one of these. So it was just, let's go and do that. So got onto that course. I chose that course because I felt that's what suited me best, having run a business. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just rolled with it, and I'm still studying it.
What was your business that you had? Like, what were you used to? It was the motor trade. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. So we're kind of outskirts of the motor trade. So the business that I had was in car detailing, mm-hmm. Applying specialist coatings, selling products. A lot of businesses like it. I mean, I follow a lot of guys on LinkedIn who are possibly watching this just now. A lot of businesses like it. You know, again, takes a lot of discipline to do. There's really tight time schedules. People want their cars back, you know, as soon as you give them it. So a lot of discipline involved in that, and it's really, really laborious. I mean, you think of a traditional car valet, if you like, you drive in, it maybe takes them 20 minutes, half an hour or something. The jobs we done could last 4 days.
Jesus Christ.
literally cleaning and polishing a car for 4 days. Literally, quite literally. That's how, I mean, it took a lot, that obviously takes a lot of discipline, because you'd be sitting next to a car for, God, you could be sitting next to a car for 10 hours a day with a machine polisher in your hand, polishing it. Could be doing that for 3-4 days straight.
Did you run it at the same time? Both in that?
No, I didn't. No. The reason I actually started it up was because I moved to, let me just try and get my timings right here. I moved to London, I think in 2010, 2011. I moved down to London from Greenock because a really good company had offered me a really good position. So, and I always wanted to leave Greenock. So I done that. I was there for about a year. I had to come back to Greenock, and it was literally because of I mean, you remember the big recession we had at that time. In about 2000, I think it was like 2008 to maybe 2012. The construction industry was just, you know, at its lowest point. And coming back up to Greenock, trying to find a position, and the kind of role that I was at that time, it was impossible because nobody was hiring, because there was no, you know, there was no investment in the construction industry. So it was it was, what do I do? And that's when it decided, well, I may as well start my own business because nobody can take me on. So let's just hire myself.
Yeah, just the reason I asked that is because I know a couple of people that do it. Obviously not quite the extent you did, but they do it on their spare time. So I was like, I'm curious if you've done, like, you know, they do it as like a second job. So I was like, I'm curious if you've done it at the same time. But so you went from, so on well, I'm always curious, like, say like somebody gets their car back, obviously, you know, when you had the business and that, see somebody gets their car back, and say there was like something that wasn't put, say there was like I don't know, maybe like a mark that was there before, but then they tried to blame you for it. How did you, because I've heard this happen before, how did you like that one?
It's funny you should say that, because if there was ever a complaint to be had, it was always something like that.
Yeah, this scratch is here, this dent wasn't
that scratch wasn't there before. Well, I mean, it was, the simple answer is, it depends on the condition of the car when it comes in, right? Because what you want to do is when a customer comes in to get a quote, what you want to do is you want to walk them around their car really thoroughly and ask them what they're not happy with. And that means they can then tell you. And from that, what I can then gather is what I can do to make it better. And they would say, you know, they might point a scratch out and I could either say, yes, I can get rid of that, or no, I can't get rid of that. So at that point, they know whether that's being removed or not. On the kind of flip side of that, what could happen is you can, and this does happen every now and again, you might get a car in and the paintwork is just in, you know, horrible condition, really, really horrible condition. And as you're polishing it, as you're removing that top layer off, you can actually uncover some other marks that you couldn't see before. And, you know, at that point, it was either, you know, you'd have to make a call as to whether you could remove that mark or not. But again, you need to explain that to the customer. And if you're good at, if you're good at your job and you've got all the knowledge that's required to explain that to the customer, then generally they were happy, they were fine with that answer. I mean, at that point as well, you could also say, look, if you really want it removed, then I think I can remove it. If not, you know, we can leave it like that. Or the advice might be, look, we can't remove that. It's just a bit too deep, you know. So, but yes, you're right. It does happen. It did happen occasionally. It would happen. But you just got to deal with it at the time.
Yeah. I guess as well, it's like every situation is different. So, if, like, you know, I just saying you know, certain types of cars bring in certain types of people, as they say. So, you know, it would, you know, there is that aspect to it as well. It's like, I think it's all, that's what, like, it's when you see people clearing, because obviously with the way that I go to, you know, gym and stuff, you see you always see like different car violators, and I'm always like, you know, what's the difference between, like, you know, this one and so on and so on and so on. So, like, what at the time, obviously, because what made you stick out the crowd more than other people, in your opinion?
I think the enjoyment factor. I did enjoy the job. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was really hard at times. I mean, there was days where you would literally be doing 16-hour days, you know, stuck behind a machine polisher. That's what it could take sometimes. Or, you know, what you just had to do whatever you just had to do whatever it took. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're saying about commission only. That's exactly what running your own business is. It is commission only, because if you don't do the job, or if you don't do enough jobs, or if you don't put enough time in, then you don't get anything back out of it. So, I mean, it's just, you've just got to stay motivated and you've got to stay disciplined. And if you can enjoy it at the same time, enjoy what you're doing, then, you know, it makes it all that wee bit easier.
Yeah. Especially when you're spending 15 hours a day doing the same thing. That's, you know, most people work like 6 to 7 to 8, well, 6, 7, 8 hours now. Like, they do not work 12-hour shifts. It's crazy to hear about. But if you had to, you know, just before because I'm curious about your curious about two other things on I said you wanted to speak to you about, but if you had the opportunity to start the business again, or maybe like even like revamping it, because as you know yourself, sometimes it's like they're like, why did you stop? And even though, excuse me, you had a perfect reason, but if you could start it again, would you run it again and like grow it and continue it, or is that kind of like something you've never really thought of?
No, I mean, I think that right now I've got no desire to do that. I think I'm just past it. I think if I was to go back and do it again, I mean, I think I would spend less time actually being the guy that does everything. I would try and take a step back, let someone else, you know, come in and kind of do the labour side of the job, where I could be out a bit more, you know, meeting new customers, you know, try to prospect new business. I would do it like that. I think next time, if I was to do it again, that's how I would do it. I wouldn't take everything on myself.
How did your job come you have about now? Because you've only been here, you've only been at your job you have, is it a month or 2 months?
I'm only in my 4th week here. I'm only in my fourth week here. So, I'm absolutely loving it.
the sales and support manager for Scotland and Cumbria and Northern England. And like I said to you before, that as before we started, I was like, you've, especially when you said you'd been traveling as much, as I was taken back, I was like, I drive an hour and a half and I'm like, you know what? I need to break for 20 minutes. Like, I need to stop. Do you want to tell, obviously it's up to you, but do you want to tell everybody what you told me before the podcast about where you've been traveling today?
Yep, so today I left Greenock, I think it was 7 o'clock this morning. I drove to Carluke to pick up a colleague, and we then drove, he was in the passenger seat. We drove from Carluke. We stopped in, is it Stonehaven, just outside Aberdeen?
Yeah,
Stonehaven?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We seen a customer there. We then drove up to Aberdeen. We went and visited a couple of dealerships there. And then from there, we drove out to Keith. We met a motor factory in Keith. We then headed out towards Elgin. We stopped somewhere on the A96 to meet one of our kind of smaller independent dealers. And now we've landed here in Elgin.
It's crazy. How do you, like, I know people say, like, I had a lot of coffee or something like that, or like cups of tea, like you were saying, but how do you manage to, like, not even like stay awake? Because there's another, like, it's easy enough to stay awake, but like, how do you manage to have the motivation and that to be able to do that? Is it because you do love what you do? Well,
yeah, I mean, there is that, but I suppose, I mean, we were saying before the podcast, when you're driving, you can't do anything. You can't make sales calls when you're driving. You've got, if someone calls you while you're driving, obviously coming through the Bluetooth, it's fine. You can have a conversation with them, and then you might need to action something when you stop. You can do that. That's no problem. But you can't do anything else. You're just on the road. You're just driving. So what I kind of like to use that time for is just is learning. So I've got Amazon Audible on my phone, and instead of reading books, I listen to books. I love listening to books. So that's what I do. I put a book on and I just listen. And I just, you've got no distractions. You're just driving. You get no distractions, and you can just take the information in. So that's what I do. I think this year I've listened to about, God, I don't know what book I'm on now, but I've listened to a fair few books already.
I can imagine. Is your job predominantly traveling, or is it like office based as well?
Yeah, so kind of generally it's maybe a week to week it'll be split. So it's maybe 1 week it might be 2 days in the office, 3 days on the road, or it might be 3 days in the office, 2 days on the road, or whatever the business demands is what I do.
So again, it's a kind of a weird question, but are you the type of person that kind of like you were saying, you like the sales? Is that because like you're quite like, I feel, well, and a better way of wording this question, right, would be, I feel that salespeople, it's just my opinion, salespeople have like they kind of want to be better every day because you kind of have to have the knowledge and things like that. Is that kind of like yourself, if I'm describing that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think people look at sales as maybe a hard thing to do, or maybe, I don't know. I think if you're at school, for instance, right, and your teacher asks you what do you want to do for a living, many people say a salesman when you were in class.
No one. It's usually an astronaut or a firefighter.
Exactly, or a lawyer, or maybe a policeman or a mechanic or something like that, right? Because I don't really think enough people take sales seriously. But there's a lot to sales. There's a lot to being a professional salesman. And I mean, if you look at a lot of the real wealthy people in the world, a lot of them are probably salesmen.
I remember the thing is as well about sales is that being able, as I said to people has said in the last podcast I recorded, that I said that with Ian Hamilton, I said because he owns Expo North, so he has to sell that festival to people and all that sort of stuff. And he said at the end of the day, it's not as easy as going out and being like, you know, nice to meet you. For example, it'd be my name's Kyle, I'm going to sell you this sort of thing. People are like, well, I'm not interested. Like, they're not. If you're just all about the sales and stuff like that, there has to be. I would say it's a skill being able to sell something, because like you're like, to build up the customer rapport, and you have to know something about that thing. It's the knowledge you have to be a salesman is crazy. But
yeah.
I haven't actually asked this. What do you sell? Like, what is, if you're allowed to say, obviously, what do you sell?
I sell registration plates.
Oh, so like private registration plates and things like that, or
no. I sell, the company I work for are called Jepson Company. They're the UK's oldest number plate manufacturer, established in 1894, believe it or not.
Jesus.
So we sell number plate components and equipment, and we've also got a specialist piece of software that only our company has in order to allow the users to print the number plates. So, for example, like every single car in Britain has got 2 number plates on it. No, this is what I find funny about it, because nobody looks at the number plate and goes, I wonder who made that. But somebody did.
I'm going to end up looking at my number plate now. He said that. I'm like, I wonder if he did make my number plate.
Somebody made it. Somebody sold the components and the equipment to physically make that number plate. So the components and the equipment required to make that number plate is what I sell.
So, again, this is obviously like a, you know, one of those questions, but did you see yourself like doing the role you're in? Or I know you did, was it like one you were like, you know what, as you seen it come up and you're like, you know what, I kind of fancy this, like seeing where it goes, or how did it?
No, I mean, talking about different type of sales roles, right? I couldn't see myself in a sales role where, and I know this happens, and no disrespect to anybody, but the type of sales roles where you get given, let's say, 3 appointments every day, and you need to go and see those 3 appointments each day. These will be maybe warm or qualified appointments who are expecting you, and you go and do them 3 sales appointments every day. I couldn't do that type of role, because there's no autonomy in it. I've not really got a say in how I work. I've just got to go and do them sales. I've just got to go and do them appointments, and that's me. I can go home after it. Whereas in the role I'm in now, there's a lot of autonomy in the role, where I do what I believe I need to do on that particular day. Do you know what I mean? I'm not limited as to what I can do. I don't, and obviously I've got sales calls and stuff that I need to be on, but I don't need to be reporting back every day and say I've done this, and this is how I done it, and whatever else. I can literally do what I believe needs to be done in order to close a deal, or gain new customers or whatever. So that's what I like about this role. Like, obviously this week I'm up in the north of Scotland this week through choice, because I had to come up here and see customers. Last week I was in County Durham in the northeast of England because I had to be there. On Friday, for instance, I was planning on being in and around Ayrshire, but I had to go to Carlisle because that's what the business demanded. So that's what I had to go and do. That was because that's what that happened because of my actions, if you know what I mean. So I had to do that. So that's what I like about this role. It's just that there's a lot of autonomy in it, and I can make my own day, if you like, if that makes sense.
So you're kind of like, it comes from being able to it comes from back to the army again. That's why I'm like, I would like having grandparents and that was in the army. My heart goes out to them all the time, but like I guess it's because like obviously you've had your business and you know what it takes, and you know what obviously all that kind of goes into it. So you'll know how much of a crucial part you are actually. I know this sounds like really cliche, like you're a part of the business, but when you are involved in a business, you're literally like a trigger that needs to be there. Like everybody's, as they say, everybody's replaceable, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, if you're still a vital trigger. So the fact that you know what it takes for like somebody that if they were involved in your business, you'd be like, well, how would I want me to act? But and the regimented thing as well. Does that come to like, because you're quite a regimented person, if you were in obviously not the job you're in now, but say you were in another job and it wasn't very regimented, like, oh, you turn up at this time, but then we don't know where you're going to be, and we don't know, you'd be like, it would be kind of like not clicking for yourself, if I'm correct in saying that.
I mean, I've got my day, my 5 days a week, my days are pretty much the exact same, apart from the bit in the middle when I'm at my job. As I say, I'm there, yes, I'm doing my job, but that, whatever needs to be done during that period is done. But I mean, I'm up at 5:30 every morning, have my breakfast, I go to the gym, and then I'm ready to start work for maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock. I mean, if I need to start work at that time, because that's just how I work. I've got to be ready and working for 8 o'clock, sat down in my office, whatever it is, or in the car ready to go somewhere. I need to be, that's how I need to work. And that might just, however long that goes on for, if that's up until, I don't know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, that if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. If it was like, just come in whenever you like and make sure you just get this done, you've got to regiment it, otherwise you just lose all control of it, and you've got absolutely no schedule, and it would be like, well, I'll just do what I want then. And nothing will get done.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, I think again it comes, that's why like people kind of shy away from I'm sure you've got this as well, people kind of shy away from sales jobs a little bit, because, and I don't think it's nothing to do with the workload, and I don't think it's nothing to do with the nervousness or like, having the courage and all this sort of stuff. I think it because like sales jobs are actually jobs you actually have to work at. That's the problem.
I think the most important thing is in sales is that you need to be selling to the right person. If you get to the, if you're pitching somebody or you're speaking to somebody, see if he doesn't need your product, he'll not buy it. It's as simple as that. Like if you don't need something, you'll not buy it. So you need to know that the person that you're speaking to is closable and actually wants your product. Otherwise, there's no point in speaking to him. And everybody, you'll probably hear everybody in people hear you're a salesman, they go, you've got the gift of the gab. Like, you couldn't be further from the truth. It's just understanding your customer, your prospect. If they don't know what you're selling, then they'll never buy it. So don't sit and waste your time speaking to them. And that's not a failure. That's not a failure in sales. Not being able to sell someone something that doesn't need it isn't a failure. They just don't need it. So they'll never buy it. And I don't think people can, I think people maybe some people just maybe coming into the sales kind of industry, they might see that as a failure and go, and it would put their head down. I couldn't close that guy. Well, if he didn't need it, then he wasn't going to buy it. So it's not a failure. You're just not speaking to the right prospect.
So, it's like the saying goes, window shopping. They're only wanting to look and see what you have, like to take up your time, and that it's true. But how do you just with, because I was going to ask you, how do you prospect, but that's maybe like a secret you want to keep to yourself. But another one I would say was how, like when I always like to relate things back to myself, because I think it makes people feel like, I'm not just, saying things. So with it being, I think I was like 18, 19, I'm 27 now, 28 now. But so about 10 years ago, roughly, or 9 years ago, sorry, I can't count. Roughly, something that I learned was that being in sales and that actually helps you deal with negativity a lot, because you don't deal with rejection all the time, but when you do it, you can kind of like, okay, thank you very much in that. Am I correct in saying that with yourself? Has it definitely helped you develop that kind of skill as well?
I think so. I mean, it does. It makes your skin grow thicker. That's for sure. Because I mean, people will really laugh at your product every now and again, but that's nothing to do with your product. That's just them. That some people just do that. I mean, but if people want to laugh at your product that you know is a good product and you're selling it well, one guy laughing at it because he thinks it's rubbish, why should it matter? Because other people, you know, you might have 100 other people using it who think it's brilliant, and one guy laughs at it. Why should you get any negativity off that? That's not on you. That's on them.
Have you ever, you know, a very, as I'm pretty sure you've probably heard of him, Jordan Belfort type thing. Have you ever had to have you ever managed to turn like a no into a yes into when it comes to buying your products?
I probably have. Yes, I can't pinpoint any specific time, but yes, I no doubt have. Particularly in car detailing, because when someone would come down to your workshop and they would say, somebody says you're really good, how much does it cost for this? And you would quote them and you might say £300, and they would go, £300? And you go, and they go, oh my goodness, why? You're just cleaning it? No, we're not just cleaning it. And then you would take them through everything, you'd give them your pitch, you'd show them what you're going to do, and then they would understand why it costs £300, and from that they then become closable. And it's just a case of, at that point, it's just a case of closing that deal. However, the objections you might get then is, I can't afford the £300. It does seem really good, but I can't afford £300. At that point, you can then say, well, I've got a payment plan, and just now you pay 25%, and from that you can close a deal. Because instead of paying £300, we're only paying what, 75 there and then.
So, I was just about to say the gift of the gab thing, but how did you develop your sales skills then? Or is it just been the fact of like, you kind of had to because it was your job, or was it you were like, is there something else there? If you get what I'm trying to say, was there something else there?
I think it's just enjoyable. I mean, I like the thing I like best about sales, and I'm sure that everybody else in sales will say this, the thing I like best about sales is making a sale. And in order to make a sale, you need to know your customer, but more importantly, you need to know your product. If you are, if you know your product inside out, and you know that is the best product that customer can possibly buy at that time, you will probably close them. So that's your product knowledge around that. That's it's paramount. It's paramount. So yeah, I mean, I suppose you learn it with experience. You just see it all starting to come together, and then you can start nitpicking wee bits out. You can see what you're not so good at, like perhaps your script. Every salesman needs a script. Just all these wee things. They do all just start to come together, but it's with experience.
Yeah. Do you, with yourself and that, with being in sales, do you see yourself still like, doing the traveling about aspect or something like that? Or if somebody was to give you the opportunity to like move up, so you'd maybe be at an office all day, would you take that role? Or, well, like you were saying, because you kind of like being out and about, would you rather do that? Or what's your thoughts?
Right now, not saying no in the future, but right now, this is where I want to be. This is where I need to be. Can't move up too quickly. You need to pay your dues, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but I need to learn this part of the job first before I can go on and do anything else. And I need to master this. And once I've mastered this, then we'll see where we go for there.
Yeah, see what you know, I don't know if this will necessarily apply to sales. This is why I'm curious about asking this question. And everybody knows, I always say this, everybody will know the question I'm going to ask. Nowadays, with social media being like a really, really predominant thing, like it's probably is, as I say to people, as I say all the time, social media is literally your third leg. Like it's a representation of you when nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
Do you think what you post on social media in terms of representing yourself can actually affect you getting a job? Or for example, to put a little bit add on to that, because it makes sense for yourself, you know, stop you getting a sale because somebody's been like, you know, I follow him on social media, I don't really like what you post. What's your thoughts?
Absolutely believe it. Yes. On LinkedIn, I mean, I try and remain as professional as I can on LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook, but I use Instagram. I like Instagram. Instagram was particularly good for a car detailing business because it's obviously just loads of pictures. That's what you post. You post pictures and people want to see what you're doing. But on Instagram, I think you can be a bit more easy-ozy. I think on there, because it's not, you know, LinkedIn's obviously it's for professional networking at the end of the day. That's what it is. It's a professional social network. I think Instagram's a bit more laid back. You can maybe post, you know, be a bit more relaxed in your posting on there. I post about what football team I support and stuff like that on there. I don't necessarily do it on LinkedIn because I think, I mean, I don't know about anywhere else, but particularly in the west of Scotland, that could probably have an effect on you.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I know exactly. Without actually saying too much, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, are you like one of you know? Do you keep your social medias apart from your LinkedIn? Because it's not. It is LinkedIn is weird. You are private, but you're not private. Like you're accessible and you're not accessible. It's kind of strange. But so you were saying you use Instagram as well. Do you keep your Instagram like personal, like just for like friends and family and things like that?
No, I use it for a bit of everything actually. I use it, I suppose, I follow on Instagram, I follow people that I like. I suppose I follow like hashtags that I like and stuff. So like I like football. I follow a lot of footballers and stuff like that on Instagram. I like cars. I use it to look at pictures of cars and stuff like that. I like tattoos. I use it to look at pictures of tattoos and stuff like that. So that's what I kind of use Instagram for. Yes, I do post some work stuff on there. And the reason I post some work stuff on there is because I know that some of my customers follow me.
All right. Okay.
And again, I think you can be a bit more relaxed about your work posts on Instagram as well. You can maybe have a bit more. I'm not saying LinkedIn's full of, you know, straight people that are not up for having a laugh or anything, but I think on Instagram you can maybe inject a bit more humour into things. I think that's obviously everybody's different, but that's how I do it because I just think it suits it more.
Yeah, it's like when you hear people talking about this, and I'm sure you've probably heard about this whole metaverse thing. It's crazy, but it's effectively just like an online social media of yourself. But the thing that really like makes me curious in that as well is that sales is one of those things that you're obviously having to sell yourself. So the fact that like, you know, not only the product yourself as well, but when it comes to like, to relate this back to social media a little bit, you're obviously having to sell yourself to be able to like, for people to follow you and for the things like that. So what would your advice for anybody that wants to get into sales be, but also they have, with having their social media, like if you get what I'm talking about, like being able to use them both for the greater good type thing, what would your advice to somebody be if they're wanting to do that?
I mean, I grew, before I answer that, I grew a massive following, a decent following on Facebook. I think I had a Facebook page with about 7,000 followers on it for my car detailing business.
Wow.
And I mean, that was because I managed to do that because I mean, I suppose I didn't know I was doing it at the time, because it was basically just, we need a Facebook page, let's start putting stuff onto this. But what you soon learn is that the people who start following you can unknowingly start targeting people who obviously have that interest as cars. So you can just be, I mean, you don't need to, I never used any Facebook ads or anything like that. You don't need to be too, don't think you need to be too serious about it. You know, if you've done, I don't know, if you've achieved something at work, or, you know, you've got a new product, for instance, if you've got a new product and you want to get it out to your customers, put a picture of it on Facebook, tell them what it is, and maybe tell them what price it is. That's what I done. And people, you know, it just started building a bit of momentum. People seen it, oh, that looks good, let's send him a message. And then word of mouth starts happening. Have you seen this? Have you seen this thing that Craig's doing? It's only X amount. You should follow him on Facebook. And it just genuinely builds like that. And it's just because you're being, you know, you're not being too serious about it, and you're just showing everyone what you have. That's what I found. So that's how I done it, I suppose. Just picture of it, a short description, and you can put the price on if you like. And that's what I done. So that would probably be my advice.
Yeah, I'm always curious to hear that one, because like I know people that work in, like I said to you, sales, and they're not with Pennycook anymore, unfortunately, because that business, you know, rest in peace, that, you know, amazing business that they built up there. But having the I know people that work in, for example, game, you know, the retailer, and that they work in game, and the way they do this, I mean, I don't know, again, I won't mention who it is because I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but the way they do it is they'll know the latest games coming out. So they'll then obviously kind of like take pictures of it with them and of the hands, but look what this is, put it on their social media, or they'll add gaming videos, but tag the store that they're in. And it kind of like unknowingly brings customers in that way. And that's when I was like, I'm curious to what your opinion on that was when I asked you, was because like they literally use social media as a business. It's not like it's personal and business, but they use it personally to attract followers for business. It's like, it's like a weird psychologically, it's strange, but I'm sure you get what I'm meaning. And people that are in sales, I think
just on that as well. Again, I done that. I would maybe on my personal Facebook page, I would maybe tag myself into my business. And I don't know the ins and outs yet, but sometimes people prefer to see it from you than a business page, and I don't know why, but I mean, it's like if I can shout from the rooftops all day that I've got the best product in the world, right? And everybody would say, well, you're going to say that because it's your product. But if somebody bought it and they then told the same people, Craig's got this product and it's really good, you should go and try it, they would listen to them.
It's like word of mouth is literally, I'm sure, and it's really like a cliche saying, but word of mouth is literally the name of the game.
It's the best form of advertising in the world. Best form of advertising.
You can't actually get a better form of advertising than word of mouth, even with like your business, and even with any business, especially with your business, and especially with like, I always tend to find as well is the people I know that are in car sales, that's literally the only way sometimes they get work is by sales as well, is because, oh, I bought it off this guy, he was really, really kind, really nice to me, down to earth, and he was real. Like because you get a lot of like fake, I'm sure you've come across them. You get a lot of like kind of fake salesmen that are, like I was saying, only want the sale. But when you have a genuine care about the customer, people can tell that right off the bat, especially nowadays with everything being so face to face when it comes to sales. People will tell when you're just wanting a sale, or you're actually being nice because you're a nice person. Well, like see when you had to see when you're obviously involved in sales and stuff like that. When you how do you overcome obstacles then? Because there's bound to, like, for example's sake, whether that be personal stuff because you can't take it in with you, or even whether that's been like accidents or stuff. How do you know? Because obviously accidents stop you traveling, stop you getting to places. Then how do you manage to like keep your cool when you're on the phone and be, look, sorry, it's not my fault? Or if you have personal obstacles, how do you stop that getting in the way of your work effectively?
I think, I mean, it's for that point of view, I think it's just all about honesty. I mean, a good example of that, I suppose, would be, you know, being self-employed, running your own business. Some days you get sick, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You know, you can think you're invincible. You can think you're invincible and whatever else. But some days you just can't go to work because you're sick, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, for that standpoint, if you phone a customer and they say, "Look, I know your car's booked in this morning at 8, 9 o'clock, whatever it may be. I am ill and I can't come into work." 9 times out of 10, they understand, because they've been ill as well.
Yeah.
If you're that ill, I mean, yeah, people do. I think people do just understand. I don't think. Again, I think in sales, that's. I think, you know, maybe new salesmen or apprentices or whatever you want to call them. I think that's a big fear, is you know, just how people are going to react to you. I generally find that people are nice, you know, people are good. People don't want to be, you know, people want to be good. People people don't like being negative towards anybody else, even though, you know, sometimes they are doing it and they don't realise they're doing it. But I mean, I generally find people to be really understanding. I've got absolutely, you know, no fear whatsoever. If I need to say to a customer, "Look, I can't make it today because of this," generally, I generally find people understand. I generally think it's just in my nature to be understanding.
Yeah, and you know, because obviously I realised that, I know, and I kind of kicked myself when you said like how much you travel, and I was like, "Oh, I've just been at the gym, I'm really tired." But then you said what you've done, and I was like, "Okay, you deserve to be. I don't deserve to be that tired. You actually deserve it." But something I always like to end them off on a great note, and it'd be good to find out from yourself your first ever sale, right? Your first ever in-person sale, because on the phone is, like you said, it's not easier, but it's a little bit easier because obviously you're not having to see the person's face or their emotions or nothing like that. What did that feel like going into like your very first sales call? And after it, how did you feel that you were like, "You know what, I've actually just overcome something"? Like, or did you have, like, because you had a business and you were in the army, did you already have that confidence to be able to do that?
I think so. I mean, generally, you know, without sounds as if I've got a big ego or anything, because I've not. But I generally think what I learned in the army, I've taken it with me. Right up till now. And I mean, a lot of people told me after I went to university instead of joining the army, because I'd get more out of it. I happen to disagree, and it only seems to be the people that have never been in the army that tell me that, because it is the best education I have ever had, was joining the army at such a young age. I mean, it teaches you the life lessons and the life skills you learn from it at that age. And it's not just about learning them, they're literally drilled into you. So if you're talking confidence, you're talking about discipline, you're talking about, you know, overcoming your fears. I don't suppose I really think about it. I just do it. And I mean, it's not to say that I don't get scared of doing anything. I maybe just, you know, it's like the best way to overcome it is just do it, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, it's like I can remember asking, not asking, but telling someone, you know, in the early days of having my car detailing business, that it's going to cost somebody £300 to get their car cleaned or valeted in a kind of less affluent area than some other places. I mean, it's like, I've got to ask this guy for a lot of money. You know, that even that is a big thing, because you don't know how they're going to react back to you.
No.
You know, and being, I mean, like what we were saying earlier, getting that negative feedback from someone standing in front of you, it can, you know, that can lower your confidence, especially when you're trying to build a business and move forward with it. If you can't ask one person for you know, X amount of money for a service that you offer, how are you going to ask the guy after him?
Exactly, yeah. So how did you, I know you're saying like you kind of just had to do it, but how did you manage to like pluck up the courage to ask him and be like, I actually need, for example, you said £300. So you were like, I actually need to ask £300. How did you manage to, like, did you just come out with it, or was it just like, I'm going to ask it in a minute or in another, you know how people kind of like procrastinate asking people stuff?
Well, I mean, it's like, I suppose you've just got to get rid of the fact, you've just got to face the fact that if you don't get the full value of that service, then, and he tells his pal, then you're not going to get it off his friend either. So you've just got to tell him that's what it is. It's that price for a reason, because of the amount of value that you've put into it. And that value, I mean, obviously that value comes back onto me as well, because it's me carrying the job out. And as we were saying, it's commission based, isn't it? So if you don't get that, if you don't get the you know, X amount of money, whatever it might be, then how are you going to live?
Yeah, it's like worrying about what the customer's going to think, but then it's like, yeah, but it's worrying about how you're going to pay your rent every month.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, he can say no problem. That's fine. If he wants to say no, then he's the wrong person to, as I was saying, if he says no, that's too much, then he's probably the wrong person to sell it to.
I mean, and it's not as if like, and I think, and you know, a final question I want to ask, say like somebody gets something like that, for example, we'll just keep using your business because it's, I'm sure it'd be easy for people to relate to. You're getting your business and you're trying to get a sale and it's not happening for some odd reason, you know, like you're saying recession, or say like, you know, something happens where people have to like spend it, whilst people spend their money on something else, so like family and babies and all this sort of stuff. What would you tell somebody that's trying to sell something and that just can't get that sale? What would you say to that person?
I would say try again.
Just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying.
See, for every no you get, you're one step closer to a yes. And that is, in sales, that is a bit of a cliche thing. Every sales manager will probably say that to you, but it's absolutely true. The more no's you get, the closer you get to a yes, because eventually somebody will say yes. Yeah,
and that's actually like probably, yeah, great note to finish on, to be honest with you. A fantastic note to finish on. What I usually do when I get people on is I have the, because obviously I like to help promote people, because you never know who could be watching, all sort of stuff. So do you have, you said you had, is your Instagram, like if I was to, the people wanted to follow you or anything like that, what would your Instagram be?
My Instagram is, I'll tell you right now, I actually just changed it to suit my new role. Oh, I'm right on the spot here, aren't I?
You're in the hot seat.
my new Instagram is Craig Jepson number plates.
That's like, that's perfect. That's so like, that's perfect. The fact that was available for your job is perfect.
I know. It kind of makes it look as if my name's Craig Jepson though, and that I actually own the business.
Yeah, it makes it look like it's your number plate. Yeah. So like, yeah, well, again, I appreciate your time, and like, as I said to people, it's fair enough for people to give me their time if they've not been doing much and they're chilling and they're relaxing, but you've been driving all day, so like, I'm sure you need to get to your bed. So, again, thank you very much for your time, Craig.
Thanks very much, mate.
It's been like, yeah, same. It's brought back a lot of memories, and for myself, I always like to kind of start relating it back to myself a little bit. It's definitely brought back a lot of sales memories, and listening to rap music, going to people's houses trying to sell windows. But anyway, everybody, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. And oh yeah, I forgot to say as well, apparently that you can now listen to this on Radio Public, and somebody tried to explain to me, apparently it's like a newer version of like Spotify, or an older version or something. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, so if you're listening to me on Radio Public, shoot me a DM and you can tell me what on earth it is. Right, thank you very much, Craig, and see you all later. Thank you.
Cheers.